Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my glass studio. I recently had a wonderful question on one of my YouTube videos, and the question was, how do I determine what size and shape base to use on my sculptural pieces, specifically vertical pieces like this one right here, Golden Aspen. And you know what? I realized I don't have a formula. I don't have a mathematical method. But then I realized I do have a system. You know, it's in here, of course. I have a system and a method that I use, and I'm going to try to explain it to you. But those of you who want a formula or like a weight on something, like everyone wants to know how much weight I use when I build something like this, I have no idea. I just do it till it feels right. If that works against your artistic nature, feel free to measure. Feel free to get some sort of formula. Just you're going to have to do that part kind of on your own. So this actually is called Golden Aspen. It's from my Breaking Through video. I love this piece. It came out so beautiful, so much prettier than I had planned and anticipated. Just love all that. It's a kind of a study on dichroic. So I built the piece first, and this is really one of the very first pieces where I built my own stand for it, my own base. And the reason for that was it's kind of tall. I felt like I needed something that not only enhanced the art, but was part of the art and would show it in such a way that it would look really like high quality gallery presentation. So I had the piece of art, this tower first. This tower is 14 inches tall and about 7 inches wide. It actually was the size and shape of a sushi mold that I have. I didn't slump it on that, I slumped it on a barrel shaped mold used for sconces. It's very large. So that's how I got this beautiful shape. So I built this first, and I ground the bottom edge, I put it on the table, I'm like, wow, it stands all by itself. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that amazing? Then I thought, well, what happens if a little breeze goes by? What happens if somebody bumps the table and that falls over? I would be devastated. So I thought, well, that's not good. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do to support this and make it look more interesting, more three-dimensional, more sculptural, all those different things. Let me move this project out of the way. So I considered using iridized black for the bottom, but I thought no, because I thought it would reflect the art. But I thought, no, that's going to take away from the art. All I want is something plain and basic. So I went with black on clear. And so what I basically did was I measured the bottom, which this direction, which is about 7 inches. And then I decided to go 8 inches on this raised area. So the entire bottom is probably about a 10-inch piece of glass. And then in this direction, I decided to it's 5 inches, and this piece bent is about 2 inches. So I a little more than doubled it, this compared to this rather. So that it would be nice and sturdy front to back. So this dimension is 2.5 times this dimension, okay? And this dimension is, I wanted a nice amount of space on either side of this, here and here, and then the legs extend out to make it wider. So this base has about a 4.5, all right, let's see, by let's say 10-inch profile, and the artwork is 7 by about 2. So it went from 7 to 10, and 2 to 4.5 or 5. So there's not really, as I said, not really a formula, but I wanted something that visually and aesthetically looked good and pleasing and substantial enough to hold this in place and to display it and to keep it safe. So I kind of looked at the artwork, held it on the table. I probably put a piece of paper under it. I probably put a tape measure under it and said, all right, well, it's this big, what would look good, what feels right, and then built the base with the knowledge that if I didn't like the base, I would redo it, because this piece of art was so stunning that if this came out and it was too big, too small, too bulky, whatever, I would not hesitate to remake that in order to make something that really enhanced this and didn't make it look chunky. Like I didn't want something to look like a cinder block down there. I wanted something that added to it, which is also why I put this raised area in there. When you raise something up off the table, it gives it, I call it giving it lift. It really elevates the visual and perceived value of the art. So you want to keep that in mind. So I'm sorry to say there's not a real formula to this, but when I just take the art, it was made, I was like, okay, put it on the table. What do I need to make it look better, present it nicely, make it more sculptural, and very importantly, make sure that it's safe and will display well without worrying about it falling over. So I take that kind of concept and I use it with these other projects. Now this is a piece from my Go With The Flow video, and this is the size and shape it came out of the kiln, and I just loved it, so I left it. Usually I would cut this type of thing up, but I just thought it was so organic and pretty, and it reminded me kind of a bit of a saddle. So on this one, I took another piece of glass, of clear, I slumped it over the same mold I slumped this over, so they're opposites of each other, and then I glued the glass on the middle. Now here, in this case, the base is smaller than the art. Here the base is bigger, here it's smaller. This is a 3-inch, okay, by probably about 8-inch piece of glass bent over a mold. This is a piece of 1/4 inch, they also call it double thick clear fusible. And I bent it, and then I wanted it to create a graceful stand. Now this piece didn't have to be displayed this way. I could have just set it on the table. But on the table, it didn't have the same sculptural appearance, sculptural elegance that it has now, the graceful shape that it has, until I added that base. So the benefit of adding the glass was giving the piece lift. Light now goes under it and goes through the glass, which I love. It also made it look very sculptural and very unique, which I love that as well. And this is very sturdy. This isn't going anywhere. The piece is close to the table. That's one benefit there. And the weight of it is kind of centered on that base. So that's kind of a benefit. So this one doesn't really have that top-heavy worry that this one does on display. So smaller than the piece. It's about, the base is 7 inches. The piece of art is about 11. So it's about 4 inches shorter than the piece of art. It's about half the width of the art. So this one's half and half. This one was, a couple inches more in each direction. This one's half and half. And it works beautifully. So again, no real formula, but it works. So I take the art, I look at it, I say, what would display this art beautifully and safely and make it have a higher perceived value and more sculptural? That's my formula right there. All right, let's talk about this one right here. This is one of my new member courses videos called Weave. And so I made the weave, and it was very elaborate and pretty and textural and has dichroic in it and just lovely, loose, lacy look to it. And I thought, well, I could just put that right on the table. That'd be fine. But why don't I make a base for it with the same technique, the same weaving technique? And this was a square, and the base is a square. So in this case, I selected the shapes were the same shape. They're both squares. And this one, again, is smaller than this, because if it were the same size, it would be too bulky, and you would be like, visually, you'd look at this and say, what's the art, the bottom or the top? This is very obviously the top is the art, and the bottom is simply a way to present it more elegantly. And so here, this was about a 10 by 10 square, and the base is a 4 by 4 square. So it's smaller than half of the original piece of art on top. Now, when this is done, though, it takes up about let's say about a 9-inch footprint on the table this direction, and something about a 5-inch, 7-inch in this direction. So here again, I wanted it to present the art more elegantly and make it safe. This is a lot sturdier than it would be just resting on the bottom, because of these nice open areas would want to tip over. This doesn't want to tip at all. So here, I decided, all right, I'm making the artwork. What can I do to make it more fancy? And then what size would that be, and what would work well with this piece of art? So they're customized. All right, let's move that one out of the way. This one right here is called Reflection. It's a pattern bar cut in half and then put back together and refired. And then I took another section of it and used it to create a custom base. Now this one's kind of tall. It's about 9 inches tall off the table. It's not real tippy though, because it's kind of lightweight and it's just flat. And here I decided that by repeating the same tower shape and size as a base, but slumping it instead of leaving it unslumped, turn this around for you so you can see the different profiles here, that it would support the piece of artwork effectively and safely. It would add to the display and the beauty of it. It would make, by repeating the pattern, I'm adding more elaborate design to the aesthetic of this piece. And here, this piece of glass is the same size as this tower portion, is just slumped instead of being, flat. So here, they're the same, but it's safe, it's sturdy, it adds nice presentation, it adds to the beauty and elegance of the art and the graceful presentation, and it's also safe. So there again, I'm sorry, no real formula, but I'm hoping this helps you kind of identify your art. What are the strengths about it? What can you do to make it better? What can you do that enhances it? And what can you do to make it safe to display? And that's kind of what goes into all of these. All right, put this one over here. This one is called Crystal Garden. It's also one of my member projects, member course. One of my favorites actually because I love pink. I love gardening. And this to me is an organic sort of garden here, or a splash of color. Now here, the finished piece, if you measure from here to here, is about 5 inches or so. And the base is a 4x4. And the vertical portion is 9 inches. So this is less than half the size of the vertical portion, but visually it works. Visually it works, and this works because it's got weight to it. This is 4 pieces of clear fusible glass fired together and then polished or ground and then fire polished in the kiln to make it shiny again. So this works even though it's smaller than the art by half because it's heavy, it's visually heavy, and it's physically heavy. So this piece is very sturdy on the table. It's not going anywhere. And by bringing it up and giving it lift, it makes it more exciting, it makes it more presentable. I also gave this some thickness to it. Anytime you add physical weight and visual weight to your art, it gives it a higher perceived value. So another option here would be to glue this on the base diagonally. Then it's even stronger because you've got that point sticking out forward and back. But this is glued on with E6000. These are all glued with E6000 because I know that's going to be a question. One ahead of you there. All right, so this one, this is half the size. It's a little thicker than this, but as you can see, it's very sturdy. When I try to rock this, it doesn't go anywhere. So here, I wanted compact, and I wanted something that didn't necessarily visually add color or pattern or shape to the art. I wanted something that just simply presented it like on a pedestal. I wanted it to be very simple in its design and very simple in its function, but I think it works really well. I hope that gives you some information and some insight into how I decide on the size and shape of bases for my artwork, particularly for towers. So thank you so much for the question. We appreciate that, and give us more. We'll be happy to make videos about them. Thank you so much for being a YouTube follower. If you're not already, you better become one because we love it. We love your comments, your suggestions. We love when you share. We love when you like things. We get information on that every week, and it just makes our heart warm to know you guys are out there enjoying these videos because there are so many other ways you can spend your time. Thank you for spending some of it with us. We're out here doing these videos to spend time with you. We're glad that you guys appreciate it. Also, hey, if you haven't already subscribed, do so you know when my next video comes out. Also, become a premium video member. You can learn how to make this project, so many others. Full-length video, step-by-step instruction, pattern ebook with pictures, material lists, firing guides, images, everything you need to complete those projects. So become a premium video member. We'd love to have you. And until next time, happy fusing!